Well, I've got an overview that I'll try to be brief and allow a little bit of time here at the end to ask some questions. Certainly there's a little bit of history. I don't know for the, Steve, you're probably the newest, but the Joint Water and Sewer Commission started its formation process, and according to the records I've got in 2005, through a lot of discussions and community interactions between the county commission and the city commission. In 2008, we had a document, an operating agreement signed and formed, and we started business. About 2010, we started actually managing monies and dealing with, actually charting our own course to a certain extent. Although at the time, the structure of the commission was a little bit less representative of the community and probably more aligned with, my impression is, with the two commissions. I think in 2012 they did a strategic restructuring of the commission to gain a greater amount of, I believe, community involvement and selection of these commissioners, and to get better community representation as a whole, and maybe add some balance where there might be competing interests on the two commissions, governmental commissions. At any rate, and then at that point, they went from a 5-person commission to a 7-person commission. One of the issues they struggled with is the fact that all along they had 2-year commitments to their each commissioner's seat. As anybody knows, continuity in an organization is critical to the long-term success of an organization. And I think one of the things that was done right before I got here was they changed the periods that each person served from 2 to 4 years. And I think that was an excellent change, because, again, that facilitates that continuity that, in my experience, I've looked at boards around in the industry, and the ones that have longer continuity have the knowledge investments in those commissioners or in their board members, tend to be able to react to the stuff the staff brings them and to what they do, and able to generate a better outcome or make better decisions, because they have a knowledge base that allows them to react to what's going on. So for that matter, I think it was a great move. So we move through one of the slides. A few of the basic facts. We've got approximately 30,000 accounts in our utility. Approximately 20,000 are residential, another 10,000 that are commercial. We've got about 82,000 residents in our county, so you can see from that we've got a fair number of, you can estimate from that we've got a fair number of people that are on private wells, on septic tank, that don't get either of those services from us, and therefore we're not bringing revenue from every residential or every citizen in our community. It's one of the issues we have to deal with in talking about not being able to raise rates to get here from here to there in terms of what our current rehab needs and our future growth needs are for this our infrastructure. But everybody benefits. So we'll keep pre-formation issues. We had we had some poor rolling stock, trucks, backhoes, any kind of equipment, rolling stock, that a lot of it had aged and still fairly old, but we are making some big moves right now to start to replace some of that really aging rolling stock. Physical assets had been allowed to deteriorate to a point where we've got pretty poor conditions out there with a lot of the infrastructure that we've got that we inherited. I know that documentation on that infrastructure was suspect in a lot of places. We've had a problem going out when it's time to go out and make changes structurally or for whatever purposes. We start digging, we find the infrastructure doesn't look like what the documentation says. It's not where the documentation said it was, and the condition is, you know, oftentimes very poor, except in some exceptions where we have plastic infrastructure buried out there. But that leads to the fact that we've got a lot of buried infrastructure which needs some help, and that has been accounted for in the master plan to an extent, though I'm not certain that it's complete accounting. Operational challenges, we had insufficient resources in the way of staff and equipment and funds. You know, the current staff, I'll say this, that certainly I was very convinced by the folks I met on my interviews here that there was a great staff here, and we do have very good professional folks working in our organization, very capable. I don't think that my predecessors had nearly the benefits I'm getting from their efforts to get things done and move the organization forward. So that was a struggle in the early going. I know equipment was also there were shortfalls in what we needed to do the jobs we needed, and we're slowly but surely working through that. I think one of the other issues we got from an operational standpoint is the fact that the community, being a smaller community, we don't have the number of contractors. We don't have the number of engineering firms to help us with the work we need to be doing. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and that's one of the challenges we've got. We may have to compensate for some of that on our own, but overall that will be an ongoing challenge. It was there when we got here, and it's going to continue to be a problem, I think. Lack of sufficient construction oversight, that gets back to the staff resources, and I think that one of the things that our chief engineer is doing right now is identifying positions and some needs, and we're going to try to fill some of those gaps so that we have more people out there on the site checking out the stuff that's going on in the field to make sure what we've got meets our specifications, meets our needs, and that it's done right when it gets done. And that's probably one of the reasons in the past our documentation that we inherited didn't match what we find when we go in the field. You know, if you don't have somebody looking over the contractor's and engineer's shoulder, sometimes they don't always do what's in your best interest. Other operational challenges, we just had general maintenance of the facilities was in need, failing infrastructure, buried pipes, lines, water infrastructure is not kept pace with deterioration issues. And I can give you live examples. For example, the galvanized pipe we buried in a lot of places. At the time, industry thought it was such a great thing. Every utility in the country's got some of that stuff sitting out there that's literally falling apart. We're probably losing big chunks of our water that we're pumping to our customers going into the ground because of those old galvanized pipes. On the flip side, the old cast iron pipes have tuberculated to a point where many of the pipes that had holes like this or openings like this to get water and fire service out to our community have shrunk down to something like this, very small because of that. And those are conditions that we've got to deal with. On the sewer side, corrosion from sewage, byproduct gases that are formed when the stuff biodegrades. We know we're finding that. I think every utility in the country is looking at some of the technologies and materials construction in the past. We're no exception. We've got a lot of issues to deal with, and we're going to have to make that part of our master plan and replacing all that old stuff. My philosophy, one of the things that I've gleaned, and we've all talked about it already this morning, a strong water and sewer utility certainly is the basis for a strong community. And in our community, I think it's extra important just because of the way that we are structured from an economic standpoint. I know that we have the building trades are a significant portion of our overall economy in this community. And to facilitate what they do best, which is build houses and sell them to folks wanting to move to our community because it is a great place to live, we got to make sure they're able to. that they have the water and sewer systems they need to be able to develop lands and make those things happen. So that's a challenge that I think we as a community as a whole need to be ready to take on and make sure that those things happen in a timely manner, and that we get the things we need to keep those industries going and keep our community in an economic sense moving ahead. Talk about the joint water and sewer master plans. The utility has over the years had a number of master plans that basically deal with all these issues and provide a capital improvements program to map out what are the needs, what are the things we need to be spending those limited resources on. I know in 2009 we had a significant master plan that was put together. For whatever reason, we followed up shortly in 2012. I think the 2012 may be the master plan that has led to a lot of more recent concerns about our utility in the community, and that being because the part of the master plan is evaluating needs so we can assess them, identify them, and say, we've got to make these changes in the future. One of the things we assessed were our lift stations, our sanitary sewer lift stations, and I know that we, in 2012, were using engineering standards that were not nationally or industry-wide accepted. Can find no reason why we took those standards in and adopted them in the process of doing that master plan. But what it did was give us I think, a false sense of security in the condition and the capacity of our assets out there. The 2015 master plan that was just finished this past March went back to more widely accepted by EPA nationally and by the industry as a whole nationally, and by EPD in our state that adopts standards that are more rigorous, more conservative, and certainly upon applying those national standards to the examination of our assets, we figured out we got problems. We've got real problems, and that's been the course that was charted for us by that master plan. And I know that the reaction that we got when we reacted to those findings back in the summer wasn't very well accepted in the community. I understand that, and we've done our very best to get with our developers and builders and explain. And I think as a group, the team here has been working non-stop to correct those issues in the short term while we look for long-term solutions. And their issues were, it's still an ongoing battle that we're having to deal with and are going to continue to deal with. I think we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, especially in the North Mainland with that SPLOST that passed. I think there's some short-term opportunities in the other areas. I know that we've got solutions down on St. Simon Island that are going to help open things up for the next 4 or 5 years in most areas. But beyond that, there's some things that need to be done to keep that pathway going as we react to the master plan. I'm certain one of the things we've got to do is look at our needs. And since in the short time I've gotten here, I've noted a number of issues that weren't directly addressed in the master plan. So I think there's more concerns out there than even what we had talked about, just from the standpoint of condition-based needs. We looked at the conditions of our water, our wastewater, let's see, and I think in your booklet, I'm not sure what page it is. Well, I apologize. It looks like I didn't get it over to Janice to stick in here, but we'll make you copies. What I tried to do was take a look at the condition-based needs, the expansion-based needs for water and wastewater, bring those to cumulative totals for the 20-year period that the master plan's covered, and broke it out into 5-year increments using Chairman Elliott's financial plan, which was a pretty aggressive plan in terms of rate increases on our citizens, which are certainly going to be strapped if we were to pursue that to the letter. It shows a shortfall, and in each 5-year incremental period, we have a significant shortfall. In 5-year and 10-year increments, we're as much as 50% short of where we need to be to meet all the demands that we've got going forward. And I'll get you guys a summary copy of those tables so that you can see what our planning did. It looked kind of outrageous, and we're reviewing that to make sure that we haven't got some opportunities to optimize that list. I know one of the things I've been very impressed with is these guys are looking at, in every project since I've been here, what else can we do to help ourselves somewhere else while we're on this project? What else can we do in this project to make it more effective at a lower cost to get it in the ground? So those things are on the move. Alternative funding, as Chairman Elliott mentioned, one of the big issues that we've got that I'm really concerned about is if we're looking at 50% shortfalls in what we need to be reinvesting or investing for expansion in our assets, we've got to figure out how to get over that business model, as Chairman Elliott was saying, and find that tool or that option that gets us over the hump. And again, as he said, we're getting a lot of community support on that, so I think we're going to see some options come forth. Maybe the pursuit of some of these federal options will help some of that. I know we've got good justification as we go forward to reach out for that stuff. I'm hoping that future SPLOST might be a part of it if nothing else, although I will say that the SPLOST in and of itself is not, you can't count on what it's going to be doing. You don't know if it's going to be enough each year or whether it's just going to be a little injection that helps you kind of pass the way. It's a big help, but it's not the consistent help that we need. So we need a means to be able to plan for what we're going to do and know that the plan is going to be met with the funding that we've got in our resources to call upon. Path forward. One of the things that, as Chairman Elliott also mentioned, was the fact that we've got a PIO now, and I think public education on the utilities value to the community is going to be key in making them understand whatever we do to help bridge the gap, it's going to work to meet the community's needs. I think I've expressed to a lot of you, whether you drink our water or use our sewer services, you benefit from this utility being here. And the fact that it allows for that economic growth, the fact that it allows for the current economics of whatever business are out there to continue to operate and do what they got to do. So whether you actually use our services or not, you benefit. In many cases, folks benefit from fire service, that because there's a water line run out down the road, they get fire protection they wouldn't get, even if they're not on our water system. The lines are out there to give them protection. So there's many community benefits to having the water and sewer utility here that is here, but the long-term health of that community is also dependent on the water and sewer's long-term health. With that, that's my summary of where we are and where I think we need to go. I'm open to questions.
And that